So today we're going to take a look at what's going to happen if Sweden tries to form an empire in 2025. Let's see who they declare war on, how they expand and all those other stuff. Before we get into this video, I want to say that my videos are meant to be unrealistic. All the events that are going to happen are purely fictional. Major alliances like NATO, CSTO, the EU or the UN, they do not exist in my videos. Subscribe to the channel, also to the second channel. But with all those things said, now let's get right into the video. Sweden in the modern day is a relatively strong country. In order to expand, they're going to have to improve their military, but they can still take out a country if they want without having to militarize their country. That country is going to be Denmark. So yeah, now let's see. Right away we can see that the Swedish take out this island, and unfortunately for the Danish, the Swedish right away push in and they were able to capture the capital city of Copenhagen. Eventually this entire island was taken. We can see that the Swedish continue their push. The Danish are unable to push these guys back, and yeah, eventually at some point after losing most of their armies, we can see that the remaining parts of Denmark go ahead and surrender, as they had also lost their capital city. In a peace negotiation, we can see that all of Denmark got completely annexed by the Swedish Empire. Having Denmark also meant this. Now they have all of Greenland. The Swedish are now gonna have to militarize their country because all of the remaining countries around them are pretty strong. So they're just gonna do that. We can see that they import new weapons and they recruit more and more troops. They're trying to improve their military now. And yeah, after a lot of militarization and after a lot of recruits, we can see that the Swedish are now prepared for their second war. But for this one, they are going to be using their navy, as now they go ahead and declare war on Iceland. Unfortunately for Iceland, they do not have a good military at all, or any military. So we can see that the Swedish navy now has arrived on the coast of Iceland. They make a naval landing right here. They start a push around. Eventually the populated regions of Iceland were secured, and after that we can see that the remaining parts of Iceland go ahead and surrender. They had no other choice. Iceland too got completely annexed by the Swedish Empire, and things are going great for the Swedish Empire. After that invasion, we can see that the Swedish now continue their militarization process, as they have a major upcoming war with the country, for which they are recruiting more and more troops, improving their military. And after decades of militarization, we can see that the Swedish finally go ahead and declare war on Norway. Now guys, as I said, videos are meant to be very unrealistic, so yeah, keep that in mind. We can see that the Swedish forces now push into Norway. They're pushing towards the capital city, but the Norwegians are able to stop them down here. Although up in the north, the Swedish push in and they cut off these parts of Norway from the mainland. We can see that more Swedish troops arrive on the front lines, and yeah, they now start a push in. And unfortunately for the Norwegians, their capital city was right here. They lost Oslo, and the Swedish now continue their push down. These troops now start a push down, securing the mountainous regions of Norway, and the troops in the south continue their push. They are securing the coastal regions, and they now have all of these regions under their control. Eventually we can see that these troops now start to push up. They're trying to cut off Norway once again into two parts, which they do so successfully. All of the northern parts of Norway surrender, and the remaining armies of Norway are pretty much being slaughtered every day. Eventually, after years of fighting, we can see that the remaining parts of Norway surrender, which also includes Svalbard. And in a peace negotiation, we can see that all of Norway got completely annexed by the Swedish Empire. Things are going great for the Swedish Empire, as they were able to take over a very major country. They can continue to do this, but now they're gonna have to rebuild their military. This war with Norway was very costly, so they have some good relations with the stronger European countries. Although the Germans are really worried about themselves now that the Swedish are expanding up in the north, and that is a serious threat to the Germans. They have a border with Sweden. Everyone else is kind of chill for now, but Sweden's main goal at first was to unite the Scandinavian region, which I guess they did. Now, once again, after years and years of preparations, we can see that they declare war on Finland to kind of unite the northern parts. The Swedish military is much better than it was before. They start a push down, securing the coastal regions. Not to mention that the Swedish navy has also improved over time. We can see that they were able to make a naval landing. They make it right here, and they now start a push around, securing some of these regions. These troops continue their push down. They are securing the coastal regions, and now they connect up with these troops. Now a combined army pushes in, with their goal being the capture of the capital city. But up in the north, they use the same tactic, as they now push into Finland, and and they cut them into two parts. Again, because of getting cut off, the northern parts surrender. Most of the Swedish troops now go down. We can see that a combined military is now pushing towards the capital city of Helsinki. The capital city unfortunately fell. From this point, they really start to push around, slaughtering the remaining armies of the Finnish. After a few more months of fighting, this is all the progress made. The remaining parts of Finland surrender, and this was a decisive victory for the Swedish Empire. Once again, in a peace negotiation, we can see that all of Finland got completely annexed by the Swedish Empire. Yeah, at this point, the European countries are really worried about their existence, but the stronger European countries still have good terms with the Swedish Empire. Everyone except for Germany, because they have a literal border with the Swedish Empire. But no one is going to stop the Swedish Empire now, as they have even more upcoming military campaigns. We can see that after the Finnish invasion, they want to expand into the Baltics. They prepare their very formidable navy, and they go ahead and declare war on Estonia. That's a viable option down here. Yeah, things are not looking good for the Estonians. The Swedish make a naval landing up in the north. They start to push around, and before the Estonians could even react, their capital city was captured. Eventually, most of their armies are destroyed, and yeah, the Swedish now really push in. After a few months, this is all the progress made. Remaining parts of Estonia go ahead and surrender, and Estonia too got completely annexed by the Swedish Empire. At this point, the Swedish Empire is so strong that they send out ultimatums. They sent two ultimatums. One was sent to Latvia and one was sent to Lithuania. Funny enough, both these guys had to accept the ultimatums. It's not a horrible option to be a part of the Swedish Empire. Also, these guys did not want to have a war with the Swedish Empire, so I'd call this a smart move. Yeah, this is what the Swedish Empire looks like right now. They really have expanded very well. The Germans got so much worried that they now decide to declare war on the Swedish Empire, for which these guys had been preparing, but the Swedish Empire was not prepared. So let's see what happens here. We can see that right away, the Germans now start to push into Denmark, and they secure these regions. This whole thing is happening because, well, the Swedish Empire was not prepared. The Germans continue to push in, and eventually we can see that they were able to capture Copenhagen, as well as all of these parts of Denmark. This was a surprise attack. The Swedish Empire is kind of panicking right now, but the Germans do start to push into the Swedish Empire now. They push into mainland Sweden, and they start to push into the coastal regions. The northern parts of Denmark surrender, and the Germans are going all in. But yeah, at this point, the Swedish Empire, instead of sending their own armies to the front lines, were able to do something tremendous. We can see that they were able to drag Poland into this war just as a distraction, and they promised Poland that they would give a lot of Germanic lands to the Polish. So yeah, with the Polish involvement into this war, the Germans now start to retreat, and they really get pushed back by the Swedish. The Polish only joined because they had good relations with the Swedish. That's pretty much what the Swedish were doing. They were building some good relations with everyone strong. We can see that the Polish now started pushing to Germany, which is a little bit undefended as most of their troops were up here fighting the Swedish. They were able to secure all of these regions down in the south. Up in the north, the Germans really get pushed back. We can see that Copenhagen was recaptured, and this whole island was taken. The Polish continue their push into Germany. One army now starts to push up towards Berlin, but are unsuccessful in taking the city. The Swedish now really mobilize their forces, and they send them to the front lines. Eventually, we can see that all of Denmark was recovered because the Germans really went back. Although with the German arrival on these front lines, the Polish do get pushed back. Yeah, this is really not good for Germany, as because they wanted to push back the Polish, these parts remained undefended, and so now the Swedish push in. Their goal is to eventually get to the capital city, which they do so successfully, and both these guys now start to push towards Berlin. Eventually we can see that Berlin fell. With the fall of Berlin and with the destruction of most of their armies, the Germans kind of peace out. And now let's take a look at a peace negotiation here. In a peace negotiation, we can see that all of the northern parts of Germany were completely annexed. They were annexed by the Swedish Empire. Poland also took some parts of Germany, but the remaining parts of Germany are released. After winning a war against the Germans, the Swedish Empire is now really confident in themselves. At this point, they really don't know where to go. On one side, they have the Russians, they have Belarus, and if they mess with Belarus, it's straight up war with Russia. They don't want to mess with the UK because the UK is very strong. Now we can see that they want to go after the Benelux countries, Belgium, Netherlands, and Luxembourg. They start things off by declaring war on the Netherlands. Yeah, things are not looking good for the Dutch. As we can see that the Swedish now started push in. They are easily able to capture all of these regions. Eventually, Amsterdam was captured. They pushed down and captured the entire coastline. And from this point, slowly but surely, we can see that the Netherlands was entirely captured and the Dutch were not able to defend themselves here. In a peace negotiation, we can see that the entirety of Netherlands got completely annexed. We can see that at this point, the Swedish Swedish Empire sends out ultimatums. These were sent out to Belgium and Luxembourg. They had to accept the ultimatums and they are now a part of the Swedish Empire. So yeah, things are going great for these guys. We can see that after all of these wars, these guys are really tired. They don't know what to do, so they're just gonna chill out for some time. And after a very long time, we can see that they want to continue with their expansion. We can see that they go ahead and they declare war on their old ally. They weren't allies, but the Polish did help these guys once in the fight with the Germans. So yeah, things are not looking good for the Polish. At this point, the Swedish military is way better than any of these countries. We can see that they started pushing from Lithuania. They started push down and their goal is to get to Warsaw. They also push in from the east. Before the Polish could even realize what's going on, they already are able to capture the entire coastline. Eventually, we can see that both these armies meet up, having the same goal of capturing Warsaw. Over here in the east, the Polish are getting absolutely destroyed. They are able to mobilize some of their forces and send them to the front lines. But of course, that is not going to be enough, as these guys are heavily outnumbered here. More and more troops arrive on this front, and now they make their push. Eventually, we can see that they were able to capture Warsaw. These parts now go ahead and surrender, and now the Polish get really destroyed. Most of their armies are gone. We can see that these troops push down and they cut Poland into two parts. Classic Swedish strategy. Eastern half surrenders, and some of the armies that did survive in the western parts eventually realize that they cannot win this war, so they go ahead and surrender, knowing that the Swedish Empire was not taking all of Poland. And in our final peace negotiation, we can see that the northern parts of Poland were completely annexed, and this is the Swedish Empire at its peak. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, and tell me what you guys want to see in the future. And thank you for watching.